Most, if not all, of today's successful microbrands share at least one of three traits that make a difference in an ever-competitive market: outstanding marketing and customer support, great design, finishing and/or unusual materials, or absurdly low prices. More often than not, a great microbrand would check two of those boxes, but those going the whole 9 yards are very few and far between. Is this watch the product of such a unicorn? Is this the watch you want? We'll find out in the next 15 minutes or so. So, what we are looking at today is a watch with a classic set of dimensions: 40mm width, 48mm length, unusual wired lugs of 20mm, and a thickness of roughly 12.5mm, thanks in part to a gorgeous double-dome sapphire crystal that has anti-reflective coating applied on the inside. The markers painted on the enamel dial and the cathedral-shaped hands benefit from a few layers of C3 lume, and the screw-down crown and caseback can take this Seiko NH38A powered watch down to depths of 100 meters. The price is $368, and it's worth noting that should you place an order in June, you will get an 8% discount using the code SUMMER8. I gave you the specs, but this watch is way more than the sum of its parts. In order to fully understand it, we need to go back in time and talk about the history of Vario and, more importantly, the history of the wristwatch. The 1918 takes us back to the end of the Great War, when, held by the influencers of the time, the brave soldiers returning home, the wristwatch transcended the stigma of being confined to the fragile feminine wrists to becoming a testament to one's manhood. You see, before the war the pocket watch was king, but in the trenches it soon became apparent that quickly telling the time was much easier by looking at your wrist than having to yank at a chain in order to extract the watch from some damp, grimy pocket. Watch manufacturers quickly embraced the trend and produced as many timepieces as possible, which meant many teenagers were learning to read the time hunched over in a trench under heavy bombardment. A century later, one of Singapore's 7 wonders of independent watchmaking, Vario, were extremely busy launching the brand's first watch, the Bauhaus-styled Eclipse. It was then followed by the fantastic Art Deco piece aptly called Empire, a watch that took 2 years of developing. A Mecha Quartz chrono was added to the lineup before the launching of the third model, the 1918. Before delving deeper into the design and execution, I want to pause in remembrance and pay respect to the fallen Romanian heroes of the Great War. 1914 borders meant that half of the Romanians were fighting on the side of the Allies, while the other half were forced to fight as part of the Central Powers. The 11/11 armistice and the end of the Austro-Hungarian Empire dissolved the border and made creation of modern Romania possible less than 3 weeks later, at the cost of 10% of the total population who perished in the 4 years of war. The 1918 line consists of 2 dial configurations, each with a large number of color options available: the trench and the medic. While the trench is powered by a manual wound small seconds Miyota movement, the caliber used in the medic is the NH38A, and I believe quickly commending Vario on using a no-date movement for a no-date watch is in order, especially when 90% of the competition are too lazy, too incompetent or too greedy to do the same. Also, while the trench only caters to the smaller wrists, the medic does offer a 40mm case for the rest of us big-boned brutes. Not only are the movements different, what truly differentiates the two models and what led to different calibers being used in the first place is the dial configuration. While the numerals and the hours and minutes hands are almost identical between the two models, the long seconds hand of the Medic is designed to help with the using of the pulsometer scale printed at the edge of the enamel dial. I'll elaborate later on how useful this complication is. Firstly, I have to mention that graduer pour 30 pulsations means that the seconds hand will accurately indicate your heart rate if you start counting 30 heartbeats from the moment it had passed the 12 o'clock marker. As pulsometer scales are rather chronograph-specific complications, it's my opinion that the one on this watch is a decorative, albeit functional design feature, but it's one so unexpected yet so seamlessly integrated into the overall aesthetics that it manages to dial up the retro vibes of the piece. There are two more decorative elements that have no historical accuracy, yet manage to complete the overall vintageness of the watch: the crown positioned at 4:30 and the caduceus on the lower side of the enamel dial. They both stabilize and dynamize the design and add a touch of decoration that, while lacking any kind of historical accuracy, somehow manages to increase the perceived fidelity to the vintage trench watch. Have no fear, there's plenty of authenticity on display, most notably the case shape and the wired lugs. Integrating the lugs was, I'm sure, both a courageous design decision and a conscious approach to showcasing just how great Vario is at making straps. But more on that later. For now, let's just focus on the perfect brushing and the sharp transition to the highly polished step-down bezel, culminating with a gorgeous domed sapphire crystal. The Art Deco numerals perfectly match the Art Deco logo and the cathedral hands, and their execution is flawless. Of course, having the numerals painted rather than applying them to the dial means the lume coverage isn't fantastic, and my understanding is the luminosity of the orange variants is even weaker. Before taking you to the strap show, a few words about the packaging. While the case design might be something you're very familiar with, it's my understanding that this is a Vario original design produced quite some time before Ivan started designing watches. It features a waterproof, sturdy construction with enough padding to making sure your watch is cushioned against any mechanical shocks. The band strap might have gotten its name from the pilots of the Bundesrepublik Deutschland who popularized it, but the style has been around since the trench watch. As the wired lugs soldered on during the artisanal pocket watch repurposing were very narrow, the strap was reinforced with a larger piece of leather that would protect the wrist. So the band strap on the Vario watch is as accurate as possible in order to offer extreme comfort. It should be noted, however, that the two-piece is not too long, so those with wrists larger than 20 cm should rather opt for the single pass. The bond bit can be purchased separately, and obviously you can use any NATO or Zulu you have in your collection, or you can find in Vario's great catalog. And in case you want the watch to get a sudden dressier appeal, starting July the 1st you can buy one or more of these fantastic clip-on leather straps. You might have already observed the watch doesn't wear too big on my 19cm wrist. In fact, if I compare it to other watches in my collection, on Vario straps by the way, I would say the Medic wears closer to the 38mm Hamilton Chrono rather than the 40mm Hartmann Murchison, as the somewhat huddled numerals make the dial seem smaller. Speaking of the dial, I personally would have chosen one of the brass watches, but Ivan, the owner of Vario, could only lend me the white on white for review. And this is where I have to amend the statement I started this review with. There's a fourth quality very few microbrands have: the courage. There are many stories of microbrand owners being scammed by fake reviewers. So when I started sending emails asking to borrow watches for review purposes, I didn't expect too many replies. The only brand owner that acted on my polite request was Ivan, who promptly arranged for this brand new watch to be sent to me. Just like that. So yes, I can appreciate that the courage he showcased when designing the Vario products was on display when choosing to lend me a watch, and this may very well be the main reason Vario is better known than those companies I've never gotten replies from. So, to summarize, we've just established Vario are not afraid to take chances and will seize any and all market or marketing opportunities. My interaction with them confirmed the rave customer reviews regarding the communication skills. This watch has an outstanding design backed by using premium materials finished to a great standard. The price has remained pretty much the same in the 2+ years since the launch. Now, I might be subjective here, especially regarding the design, but I urge you to head on to their website and check out their other designs too, and I'm pretty sure you'll reach the same conclusion. Vario is a unicorn.